Close your eyes for a second. You're in a small stone house on a windswept island off the coast of Scotland, 5,000 years ago. Outside, the wind never really stops. Inside, tucked into the wall beside the sleeping area, there's a small, stone-lined drain running beneath a seat. Someone built that on purpose, connected it to a channel outside, and used it every single day. That's not a hole in the ground. That's plumbing. And it's older than the pyramids. So the real question isn't when humans started going to the bathroom. Obviously, they always did that. The real question is when we decided that was a problem worth engineering a solution for. Here's where most people assume the story starts. Ancient Rome, with its public latrines and shared sponges on sticks. Wrong end of the timeline entirely. By the time Rome built its famous sewers, humans had already been managing waste on purpose for thousands of years. Rome didn't invent the toilet. Rome just made it social. The real starting point is a village called Skara Brae on the Orkney Islands, dated to around 3000 BC, older than Stonehenge in its final form, and roughly contemporary with the earliest pyramids in Egypt. Archaeologists excavating the stone houses found small chambers built directly into the walls, positioned next to the beds, each connected to a drain that ran beneath the settlement and carried waste away from the living space. This wasn't a communal ditch outside the village. This was indoor plumbing in individual homes in a community that didn't have metal tools yet. Whoever designed that layout had already made a decision most of us take completely for granted. That waste didn't belong near where you slept, and that a village-wide drainage system was worth the enormous effort of building it into stone. But Skara Brae isn't even the oldest example. It's just one of the best preserved. Around the same period, and slightly earlier, the Indus Valley Civilization, in what's now Pakistan and northwest India, was doing something even more ambitious. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro, flourishing around 2500 BC, had houses built with private bathrooms connected to a covered citywide sewer network running beneath the streets. Water flowed through terracotta pipes. This was urban infrastructure planning on a scale some cities wouldn't match again for well over 3,000 years. Some ancient bricks were even shaped specifically to seal pipe joints, a level of standardization that implies specialists whose entire job was plumbing. Here's the thing people forget. These weren't isolated, brilliant accidents. Ancient Mesopotamia had cesspits and drains connected to homes as far back as 4000 BC. Ancient Egypt built toilets with limestone seats for wealthy households, some found inside tombs, meaning even the afterlife came with plumbing included. Waste management wasn't a luxury invented by one clever civilization. It kept getting reinvented independently in river valley civilizations around the world. This wasn't a random cultural quirk. It was a response to an unavoidable pressure. And that pressure had a name nobody in the ancient world understood yet: disease. Long before germ theory existed, people had clearly noticed a pattern through pure trial and error. Communities that let waste pile up near their water and food got sick more often. Communities that moved it away or flushed it out with water didn't, or at least didn't as badly. Nobody wrote a scientific paper explaining why. They just noticed, generation after generation, and built the solution into architecture. Now here's where the story takes a strange turn, because after all that early sophistication, things actually got worse. Much worse. As the Indus Valley cities declined, sanitation knowledge didn't always travel with population growth. Medieval European cities, ballooning in size, largely abandoned the kind of planned drainage the Indus Valley had figured out 3,000 years earlier. Waste was thrown directly into streets. Chamber pots were emptied from upper windows. sometimes with a shouted warning, sometimes without. It wasn't ignorance exactly. It was infrastructure collapse. Knowledge and systems that existed in one era simply weren't maintained or rebuilt in another. Progress on sanitation, it turns out, was never a straight line upward. Went backward for centuries at a time. The Romans, to their credit, briefly pulled things back in the right direction. The Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, began as an open drainage channel as early as the 6th century BC, eventually covered and expanded into a massive engineered system. Public latrines seated dozens of people side by side, with no dividers at all, because privacy around this particular activity is a surprisingly recent cultural value, not a universal human one. Wealthy Romans piped water for private toilets. Everyone else used public ones, socially, sitting shoulder to shoulder with strangers, sometimes as a place to catch up on gossip. That same communal norm shows up again centuries later in medieval monastic communities, where shared latrines doubled as a place to talk business between prayers. What we consider one of the most private moments of a person's day was, for most of human history, in most cultures, a completely ordinary social activity. Here's something that makes Skara Brae even more impressive in hindsight. Its plumbing predates written language in most of the world. The people who built it left no records explaining their reasoning, no philosophy, no religious text about cleanliness. Just stone, carved and arranged with a level of foresight that had to be passed down and maintained across generations, with no written instructions to fall back on if the knowledge ever slipped. Then there's the chapter almost nobody expects: Ancient China. During the Han Dynasty, roughly 2,000 years ago, archaeologists have found elaborate pit toilets built into tombs, complete with stone seats, armrests, and a stepped platform, sometimes positioned above pig pens, so waste doubled as feed and fertilizer in an early closed-loop system. It's a detail that sounds almost too practical to be true, and it shows a level of sanitary engineering most people assume simply didn't exist until modern plumbing arrived. Compare that to medieval Europe, where entire cities went centuries with essentially no organized waste system at all, and historians have pointed directly to contaminated water supplies as a major driver of repeated epidemics. A civilization capable of building cathedrals with astonishing precision often had worse basic sanitation than a farming village on a remote Scottish island 4,000 years earlier. Technological sophistication in one area doesn't guarantee sophistication in another. Priorities, not raw intelligence, decided which problems got solved first. Underneath nearly all of this sits one quiet, unglamorous ingredient: water. Skara Brae's drains connected to the sea. Mohenjo-Daro's sewers relied on channeled water flow. Rome's Cloaca Maxima was originally built to drain marshland before it ever became a sewer. Wherever engineered water flow was available, sanitation tended to follow. And wherever it wasn't, communities were left relying on far cruder methods, right up through dense medieval cities, dumping waste straight into the street. The history of the toilet, in other words, is really a history of water management, wearing a more embarrassing name. So when did ancient humans start using toilets? If you mean digging a hole away from camp, that instinct is almost certainly as old as our species itself. But if you mean engineered, connected, purpose-built systems designed to move waste out of daily life entirely, that story starts at least 5,000 years ago, in a wind-swept village in Scotland and a sprawling river civilization in South Asia, thousands of miles apart, arriving at the same conclusion independently. Long before anyone understood germs, humans had already figured out that where waste goes matters, and they were willing to reshape their entire homes around getting it right. And maybe that's the part worth remembering next time you take one of the most overlooked rooms in your house for granted. Someone 5,000 years ago, with no metal tools and no written language, cared enough to get this right before almost anything else. If you want more stories like this, where the most unglamorous parts of history turn out to be some of the most advanced, subscribe, because that's exactly the kind of thing this channel digs up.